Joining with us is Trey Wasser, who's president and CEO of ELY Gold Royalties. And we understand you're one of the busiest men in the sector right now, Trey, with everything going on, the transaction ahead, obviously with Gold Royalty Corporation. Welcome back to our session.
Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm glad to be back here. As I said originally, back June 22nd when we first, or June 21st when we first announced this deal, want to stay, close to the shareholders, keep everybody informed, a bit of hand-holding, if you will, here, but we just want to make sure everybody understands this transaction. It is a little confusing for a few reasons, and so anyway, I want to leave plenty of time again for Q&A here. But I want to go through this transaction, just basic slides one more time. Make sure everybody understands exactly how this works. With the tender offer, you will be able to make one of two elections. And let me just stop and say that we are finishing up the paperwork right now. We've got a circular that'll be going out to shareholders. That circular will include your proxy to vote for or against the transaction. It will require that we get 66 2/3 vote positive, in favor of the transaction of the vote, the shares that vote at the meeting, either in person or by proxy. So it'd be important that you get your proxies in, especially if you're voting in favor. But certainly people have the right to vote against the transaction. We don't think it's very likely that we'll have a lot of objection to the transaction because it is very favorable, not only to ELY shareholders on a short-term basis with a big premium to where our stock was trading and a much fairer valuation to our assets now combined with Gold Royalties assets. But also in the longer term, this really is more a merger of equals. No matter how it shakes out in all stock, all cash, is it's going to be about a 50-50 type of merger of equals, if you will. The reason that we had to put the cash component in is that our assets in the transaction were actually valued higher than Gold Royalties. Yet it's important that we have Gold Royalty be the surviving company with their New York Stock Exchange listing and the GDX inclusion. Two goals that we had to move ELY to this sometime this year or next year. So we're accomplishing that in this transaction, and then we just get a great management team, something that ELY was having to look at as far as expansion and growth. We were kind of getting to the point where we needed more support for Jerry and I. And we needed the infrastructure to be able to look at deals outside of our comfort zone there in Nevada and in Canada. And so all in all, I think this is going to be a very positive transaction, and we'll look at some other slides here later just to see how the market is accepting and viewing the transaction. But at any rate, to go back to the slide on the screen here, when you make everyone will make an election on an election form in the proxy, and we'll make sure that your brokers, if your stock is at your brokers, that they get that to you. If not, you'll have a line, and we have a hotline set up where you can call, and they'll actually call you with the broker or call the broker with you to make sure you get all your paperwork and have your chance to not only vote but make your election. Anybody who doesn't make an election obviously will not have a vote cast there if you don't send in your proxy, but your election will be considered all stock if you don't make an election otherwise. And of course, even people, I encourage people, even if you decide you're going to vote against the transaction, it's important that you make an election because it could still pass without you, with your negative vote. And if in that case, you still want to have either elected for all stock or all cash. And assuming if you're voting against the transaction and it goes through anyway, you would probably want to be taking the all cash election. I'm not recommending that, of course, but anyway, the way this works is we don't think 100% will take all cash, the all cash option. We've had a lot of people that are excited about the combination and would like to have all stock. If you take the all stock option, it's very likely you will get all stock. And while we're not commenting on the tax implications of this for either Canadian or U.S. shareholders, let's just say that we've done every we think we can with the lawyers and accountants to make this as potentially tax favorable as possible. But again, we can't give any tax advice or tell you exactly. And this has a lot to do with the fact that who can predict what, especially in the U.S., but with the Canadian revenue, same thing. I mean, you just don't know when they're going to change or what they're going to do, and tax laws could change between now and the time in the U.S. now and between the time this deal closes. So it very likely, if 16% or more people take the all cash option, then the all stock people will get all stock. And there's a sweet spot in there between 16 and 28% taking the all cash option, that both sides get exactly what they want, all cash and all stock. And above 28% all cash options is where you start to see the cash being used up, because we do have a $84 million maximum cash amount. And so you can see here on this screen, if it's 50-50, half taking the all stock and all cash options, then the cash option will get 84 cents a share and 0.1041 GROY shares. All the way up to, if everybody took the all cash, it would be 42 cents cash and 0.1745 GROY shares. So that's the way the thing works. As you can see, it's at either end of the scale over here, that it's 55-45 of all cash, 100% all cash, and almost 50-50, 50.5 to 49.5 are all stock. So it's going to fall somewhere in there in the where ELY shareholders will have just under 50% of the combined company. So let's look at this, because I really want everybody, all the ELY shareholders, to understand here that the value in this transaction, because while it's publicly, the cash offer is $1.46 a share, the GROY exchange offer was also locked in at the equivalent basically of $4.72 per GROY share. So with GROY shares up, the transaction is actually more valuable from the share standpoint. So if you take the all stock option and you get all stock today, what you do is you take the GROY stock price, which is $5.35. Now that trades New York, so that's US dollars, times 0.245, times the Canadian exchange rate, which is also here recently, with the strong US dollar, been going in the favor of this transaction. So when you multiply those together, you get $1.64 if you're looking at ELY on the Vancouver on the Canadian exchange. Now, again, to try and get into the weeds here, if you don't multiply, one thing you can also do is multiply the GROY price times 0.245, and then use the US quote, ELYGF, and you'll get the equivalent spread. In other words, if you have to convert this from US to Canadian, if you're looking at ELY on the Vancouver, the ELY.V. If you're looking at ELYGF, then don't do the exchange multiplier there. But that today, as of yesterday's close, was worth $1.64 in GROY stock, and ELY stock traded $1.37, so $1.27. So that's an implied spread of 37 cents. And again, this transaction is probably just a little bit over a month. Where the August 17th is the meeting. It should be approved in the courts quickly after that, within a few days. And this is a very friendly transaction that both boards support, and we think that we know a lot of shareholder support for this, so we think it's a very high likelihood that this goes through. So we just don't want to, want people to keep this in mind, that if with the stock here, don't be selling your stock and just moving on. Look at this transaction and the value of it longer term of the combined companies, and don't give away your this spread that's quite substantial here for just a holding for another month. This would be even for the all cash option, and assuming that everybody takes all cash, you're looking at a total value of $1.59 on the cash side. That'd be the combination of cash and GROY stock. So again, the reasoning for this in the marketplace is there is no GROY stock available to borrow, so we don't have any arbitrage funds in this, bringing that spread down. And so just be aware that, what you're giving up if you're selling your ELY stock at these prices. I'm going to just talk about the GROY for a minute. The stock performance since this deal was announced has been very positive. This is a New York Stock Exchange listed company, who just came public back here in March. So they had trading in a fairly narrow trading range since going public until this deal was announced. And so I think it's safe to say, looking at the chart, that the institutions and the shareholders on the GROY side think this is a very positive transaction. And I think that longer term, this is a platform to become a very exciting royalty company. I think I mentioned it here in one of the previous calls, where as part of our due diligence and the requirement for our circular, we needed prospectus level disclosure on the assets that underline the key royalties at GROY. So the company that spun them out, Gold Mining, has completed 2 resource updates, very positive on the 2 of the projects, and then we have 2 more that'll be coming out next week with that also look very positive. So we're very happy and impressed with not only GROY management, but the management at Gold Mining Inc. and Alistair Still, who's running that company now as they transition from just acquiring assets at Gold Mining Inc. to developing these exciting assets. I can tell you, but when all is said and done, here with the resource updates, you're looking at 25 to 30 million ounces of gold and gold equivalent with a little bit of copper and silver in underlying these assets. So as they go through, and there's some very exciting projects there, we think, that are now moving into the development phase and will fit very nicely with the ELY key assets and our development portfolio. So I'm going to go back a slide here, because I am going to comment on the warrants. I don't know if we have any warrant holders on the line here, but I can tell you, if you are a warrant holder, you don't need to do anything. There will not be replacement warrants. What will actually happen is you'll continue to have ELY Gold warrants with the same expiration date, and the warrants will be treated like as if when you exercise the warrants, you will be treated as if you were an all stock option uh, uh, in the transaction. So let's assume for a minute, since it's a very high likelihood that the all stock option people will receive all stock, that GROI exchange rate will again be the key. So what you would do is you would multiply your number of warrants. So if let's just say you had 1,000 warrants at $1, which we from our last private placement there were dollar warrants. So if you had 1,000 warrants at $1, again your expiration date does not change, but you would multiply your 1,000 times 0.245. And that means you would have 245 GROI. You would receive 245 GROI shares at the equivalent price of $1 divided by 2.45, or $4.08. So equivalent, you're not getting a replacement warrant at this, but in the end, what you will be receiving is for your $1,001 warrants in ELY, you will be receiving 245 GROI shares at the equivalent of 405. So with that, I could probably use a slide here to explain those warrants, and I'll make one up if we have more questions here. But with that, I'd like to answer some questions here. Hopefully, like to see some questions about. Hopefully, everybody's starting to understand the deal better.
Good stuff, Trey. Thank you very much. A great mini tour through what's happening currently in the process. And I can't imagine the energy at the company right now. There's obviously a lot going on. And I think this is a great opportunity for further questions from the audience. So we'll get rolling right away with the Q&A section. Question here comes in that says, can we assume management and Sprott will be taking stock, Trey?
We can't speak for Eric of what he would, but I can tell you that management at this point is looking at the all stock option, especially at these, and I would think that Eric and any other sophisticated investor, I mean, if you're going to get the all stock and it's at a premium to the all cash, be taking the all stock.
Okay, appreciate that very much. Thank you. I've redirected a question from one of our audience members here that asks a couple of questions. They hold a few thousand shares on a direct investing platform with one of our key banks. How and when would the decision be to take all stock in GROI? They haven't received anything from the brokerage yet. If they just leave the ELY shares as is, would they automatically turn over to GROI?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Absolutely. So one of our viewers is holding a few thousand shares on a direct investing platform with one of the major banks, and the question is, how and when would they make the decision to take all stock in GROI? They haven't received word yet from the brokerage on this, and if they leave the ELY shares as is, would they automatically convert to GROI?
Okay. Yeah, as I said, it's July 14th is the record date. And so anybody who owns the shares after the record date, which, that'll be next week, will then receive the circular. And it'll come through your broker or your bank. And if you don't receive that circular will include the proxy for voting. It'll be prospectus level disclosure on the entire deal and it will also include the election form. So we'll make sure, and we will have the hotline set up. If you're not seeing that information through your broker, then you can call that hotline,
Mm.
and they will help you make sure you get the paperwork from the broker. I think we also are looking at potentially being able to set up that hotline where they can also just connect you right through to Broadridge and vote and make your election either online or over the phone. So we're going to make it very easy for everybody, but don't look for your paperwork until probably, I would say, the week after next. Because it will take a while for it to go out, but it'll be mailed out to everybody on the 15th.
Okay, great. We'll watch for that date. Thank you very much. Mark, a question.
Hey, Mark, let me interrupt you a minute because I'm seeing some questions here on the screen, and we've got one, a couple people maybe here who are still having trouble calling this maybe too complicated of a deal, and that implies that either we for some reason, look, the reason this deal got complicated is because we negotiated very hard with Gold Royalty, and we felt that ELY's assets were better than Gold Royalty's. And yet we wanted to preserve the platform that Gold Royalty has with the New York Stock Exchange listing and the inclusion in the GDXJ. And they're now trading options, which is, again, very valuable in the liquidity with the institutions. So that's a very valuable platform. So we had to put the cash component in to keep the ELY shareholders from going over 50%. If we didn't have the cash component in there, this deal would look more like 56, 57% ELY and 43%. So anybody who thinks this, there's some shenanigans going on here, or this was some kind of desperate attempt to put a deal together, wake up here. It's not a complicated deal, for any other reason other than that we really, negotiated the best deal possible in a transaction we wanted to do with Gold Royalty. No desperation here, so
Understood.
get over it.
I appreciate that, Trey. It's naturally complex versus complicated. I would say this is part of the choreography, and I appreciate the insight there. Absolutely. Thank you. Very good. There is a question that comes through asking why ELY is still trading at a large discount to the buyout offer.
Well, I think that, one, as I explained, there's no borrow in stock available to short the Gold Royalty. So where you would naturally have this stock trading somewhere near to the cash tender offer, I think that the GROY stock, you wouldn't see that spread to the GROY stock. Now, why it's trading to the discount to even the cash offer of $1.46 is, clearly more sellers than buyers there. I don't know if it's people don't think there's a lower chance of this deal going through. I can assure you this is, we see very, very low hurdles for this deal going through. And then also, I think it is somewhat confusing to people. I don't know if it's possible that people are in the U.S. are trading this stock under the U.S. symbol ELYGF, and if you do that, then or in Canada you don't do the Canadian dollar conversion there. People may be confused by that, that's why I'm on here about every week. I'm fielding phone calls from shareholders, emails from shareholders, and we're responding to everyone. And we've set up the hotline, hopefully to show people that this and assure people that this deal has a very high probability of going through. And if you want to just sell your ELY shares and move on to something else at this point, if you don't like the the transaction and you're moving on, that's fine. But I think that that might be a combination of people just moving on to and redeploying that money somewhere else, or people that just don't fully understand the deal.
Fair enough. Okay, I appreciate that, Trey. Thank you. A question here. Could you please explain how the all stock election would work if someone owns 1,000 shares at $1?
The all stock election, if you own 1,000 shares at $1, you're going to get 0.245 shares of GROY. So on the all stock, and again, that could be, you could get, if it drops below 16%, that choose the all stock or all cash, then you could get a little bit of cash with your stock. But in all likelihood, you were going to see greater than 16% choose the all cash option, in which case you will get all stock. So you would get 245 shares of GROY, GROY.
Okay, great. Thank you, Trey. Appreciate that.
And the value of that today would be from this slide here, based at GROY at $1.35. I don't know if those people, if that's Canadian, that they own that 1,000 shares at $1 Canadian, then the value today is $1.64 Canadian.
Okay, great. Thanks, Trey. A choreography question when it comes to a deal like this in the marketplace. A viewer asked, couldn't ELY start a buyback to take advantage of the discount currently, or GROY buys perhaps some of the ELY stocks at the market, for example, cheaper than in the offer?
Yeah, for those who maybe think this deal's complicated now, no, we're yeah, just what we need to do is start changing all the numbers that are supposed. We're about to put out this prospectus level circular. It's got to list accurately down to the share how many shares are outstanding. So for us to, in midstream here, to be changing those numbers would be, it just wouldn't work. We would not be accurately reporting the number of shares outstanding and cash balances and that type of thing. So that typically is not done in a merger transaction like this. We usually leave that to the arbitrageurs to close those gaps by buying ELY and selling GROY until they find a happy medium. And because they can't short the GROY, the ARBs are not buying the ELY. And meanwhile, we have people who either don't like the deal or don't understand the deal, who are leaking out their ELY and on the sell side. I think if you had the natural ARBs in this stock, and able to short the GROY stock, I believe ELY would be trading around $1.35, probably a 10-cent discount to the all cash, and GROY would be trading down at fairly close equivalent there. And then as this deal gets closer and closer, that spread would narrow one way or another. But I keep pointing out they can't short the GROY, therefore those same ARBs are not buying the ELY like you normally would in a transaction like this.
Fair enough. Thank you. A lot of questions coming in, Trey. So we'll move forward. I think I know the answer to this, but the question comes in asking if you'll be remaining with GROY after the merger. Yes.
Jerry and I will both be carrying on. And, for those who don't know the whole story, I mean, we have some great help at ELY. But for the entire time that since we made the change to the royalty model in 2016 by acquiring Jerry's assets and Jerry coming to work and Jerry and I working together, Jerry and I are the only two full-time employees at ELY in management. And so, again, both Jerry and I will be joining GROY I'll be joining on a consultant basis, which is how we serve Ely, and I will be joining the board at GROY. So I think this that it's business as usual. We will continue to do deals. You'll see some press releases coming out from us next week as far as some recent transactions we've done. And in essence, what you're getting in this transaction is Jerry and I doing what we've been doing with more capital behind us, and so able to do some larger deals, and then this whole GROY team with about 200, I don't know, almost 3 centuries of experience. And these guys are mind builder, engineered operators from different companies, with a couple of finance guys who have done a lot in the mining business. And I can't tell you how important, for a royalty company, the relationships are. So you look at I urge people to go look at that board of directors and the background there. Starting with David Garofalo, who was the CEO of Gold Corp. He navigated that and instituted that merger with Newmont. He was with Hudbay before that. Ian Telfer is an advisor to the board. He's not on the board, but heads the advisory committee. Okay. He's one of the original. It was the chairman of Gold Corp when they spun off the royalty company that is today Wheaton Precious Metals. So basically, the father of the streaming business. This is a very strong management with very strong relationships, and really with our assets and their assets, and the management that you're getting behind this company going forward. This is a fabulous deal, I think, for Ely shareholders, and it's no kind of sellout or anything else. We're committed to the deal, Jerry and I both, and we just think it's a platform that we were looking for that would have taken us years to build, and meanwhile we were always under the gun, because even though we have great shareholders, our stock has always traded at a significant discount. So it was hard for us to find somebody that offered good management. There were other smaller companies we could have merged with, but they didn't bring any management expertise to the table. They didn't bring any, the platform with a New York Stock Exchange listing and inclusion into the already included into the gold mining indexes. So yes, we will be staying with the company, and yet, we think we're combining with a very strong management team and platform.
Understood. Thanks for the explanation on the team side as well, Trey. As a shareholder asking here, just looking at the timeline, what are the significant dates, Trey, as in when would they get the paperwork?
Okay, a record date is July 17th, so next week. That's the cutoff. Everybody who owns the stock, as of that date, will, and you have to have owned the stock, meaning you have to have bought it 3 days before the 17th. I think that's probably, I'm not sure, is that Monday the 12th, 3 days? No, it's the I think Friday's tomorrow's the last day you can buy the stock and own it and be of record. So on the record date, we'll take that list of everyone and mail out the prospectus. It's called a information circular, and that will give you all the have, as I said, the proxy to vote yay or nay at the meeting, which is scheduled for August 17th. That's when all the votes will be tallied up. And generally, everybody does that by proxy, by sending your proxy in and not necessarily attending the meeting. Although that is it will be open for people to come and ask questions there. So then the 3 days before the meeting is the deadline for making your election. The election form, as I said, will be in the circular that you get here, but probably you should have that by the third week in July. And if not, we'll help you track it down and make sure you have it. But so that election is 3 business days before the meeting, so I believe that works out to August 12th.
Okay.
And that'll be the last day to make your election for all stock or all cash.
Okay, thank you, Trey. Question just around on both sides of the border. Can you please address the U.S. tax implications as best you can here, Trey, if any, for a hypothetical 1,000 ELY shares held long-term in a taxable brokerage? Presumably, they're saying taking cash would be a long-term capital gains, but what about converting to GROY?
Okay, I can't give any tax advice or opinions on this. All I can say is that we've been warned that anything I say, whether or not it's even right when I say it, it could be wrong based on tech changes that they're talking about tomorrow. So, short term, long term. I think you're going to have to just talk to your tax advisor on this and decide, that's again why we're giving everybody plenty of time. Once they have the circular, you'll be able to go to, take it to your tax advisor and see. But I can assure you that what we have done with and with this being 2 Canadian companies, merging in Canada, the implications and the way that the IRS in the U.S. treats transactions versus the Canadian revenue, but we have labored very hard to structure this deal to where it would be most favorable to as many shareholders as possible.
Great. Well said. Thank you, Trey. A question on a timeline again. If the deal is approved, when will the approximate date be for ELY stock to stop trading?
That is a good question. I'm not sure I know the exact answer to that. I believe it to be shortly after that once the deal is approved, but I have to get back to you, everybody, on that. But I think that once the deal is approved by the court, which is shortly there, sometime right after the meeting, what we'll do is unlike the U.S., these merger deals in Canada always go before a judge. It's like our Federal Trade Commission in the U.S., but the judge at the BC, it's a special court for these type of transactions where they review all of our documentation and everything and make sure that it's all appropriate and fair and that we have all the disclosure we need and that everything is in there. And at that point, they approve the transaction. Or approve all the paperwork and everything, again, subject to the shareholder vote. And then after the vote, we go back to the court and say, okay, we got the vote. And they say, okay, then you're good to go. Any problems that would generally come up in in that first stage if there's something short of the paperwork or something they don't like about it. But that's and so I think it would be ultimately sometime right after Labor Day. This should be approved by August 21st, 22nd anyway. And I think once it's approved and the GROY stock has gone out, obviously they can't allow any more. We'll have to stop trading in the ELY stock because we don't want you selling ELY stock in your account and then having it go to GROY. But for the most part, I think that if as far as your ELY stock, it'll be replaced in your brokerage account by GROY shares on the date that it's approved. And at that point, you won't have ELY shares to sell anyway. Okay.
Thank you, Trey. Technical question here from a shareholder. Can we vote via electronic means? Is it possible to vote electronically?
Absolutely. Typically what will happen is for everybody is when you get your circular, that'll include your proxy for voting, um, and and also, like I said, the election form. It'll also have on there for you a control number and a website. And what you'll do is go to the website for Broadridge, who is doing all the calculations, and you'll enter that control number, and it'll pop, and that same physical proxy that you have in your package will pop up.
Okay.
So that's why if we, as I was saying before, we'll have this hotline number, hopefully we'll be able to help people. The key there is that you need to have your control number. That control number knows how many shares, tells Broadridge how many shares you have, and allows you to cast your vote online.
Okay, appreciate that very much. Next question here, Trey. Will there be a TSX listing? Because for some, becoming a foreign exchange trader makes it a whole different transaction.
Well, I'm not sure. I know people keep saying this, or it keeps coming up, but I have yet to talk to anybody who just strictly trades Canadian stocks in any account. But there's no issue at with trading the New York Stock's just exchange listed stock, nor carrying it in your Canadian IRA and 401k accounts. But we're looking at the TSX listing. I think that's very likely to happen, but not likely to happen, not going to happen prior to this deal getting announced. For GROY, they were looking at this when we got together, but their impetus and ours was to get this transaction completed. And obviously, when you're doing a listing, it kind of goes back to the previous question about us buying in stock. When you do apply for your listing to the stock exchange, you have to, at TSX, you have to give them all of your financial information. And your listing requirements are based on the size of the company, the assets, the balance sheet, everything else. So obviously, in the midst of a transaction, it's going to take this transaction being completed and for us to compile everything together and make that application for the combined companies, and therefore, it's hardly possible to do it in the midst of a transaction like this.
Okay, thank you for that. Just on the technical side again regarding voting here, Trey, if someone owns ELY shares in several different accounts at a Canadian broker, do they need to make several proxy elections for each account or just one?
I believe, and again, the questions are coming in, so making me smarter every day as I go actually get the correct answers to these questions. So I'll wing this one a little bit as well.
Okay.
It's what I believe right now is if you have it in several accounts, you will get several different proxies through each broker, and that'll result in different control numbers for each holding at each broker. And so you will have multiple control numbers and multiple, therefore multiple places to vote, and more importantly, multiple elections to make. So you will have the option of being able to take all stock in one account and all and all cash in another account. But and it won't matter whether if you own ELYGF. I see this question coming up on here, so I'm just going to address it now. If you own ELYGF, what you own is ELY Gold Royalties. So the symbol is how and where it's traded. So ELYGF is our symbol on the OTCQX. ELY is our symbol on the TSXV. But regardless which one you own, what you own is ELY Gold Royalties, and you will still get the same the same voting. There is not a U.S. ELY and a Canadian ELY. It's all Canadian ELY,
Right.
and you just are trading it on a U.S. platform. So thus the OTC symbol and the difference in price. But you'll get those that own their the ELGYF in accounts in a U.S. or online brokerage will get the same vote circular and control number system as all shareholders equally.
Okay, thank you, Trey. Questions are still coming in hot and heavy here. Let's look down the road a little bit here, Trey. And someone's asking, could you comment on the outlook for the new entity over the next, say, 5 years?
Wow, I'm glad. I was gonna at the beginning. I kind of didn't get to it, but I said I hope we get to some questions like this, and that we've gotten everybody comfortable about the structure here. Look, I think a couple of things that we think were going on here in the marketplace. I think I mentioned this in one of the last calls, and certainly in my my letter to shareholders. We started this process of looking at strategic alternatives and hired Laurentian Bank back in December. This is 3 months prior to the IPO with Gold Royalty. We actually talked to them at the time about doing something potential when they were still private. But that was only one of many alternatives we looked at through Laurentian. We talked to and signed NDAs with larger royalty companies. We talked to some of the smaller royalty companies. And all this came born out of the fact that really in 2020, it started in 2019 with this proliferation of new royalty companies, and really a slowdown in the building of projects. So less opportunity. You had much more competition, and ELY has always been undervalued. I mean, our assets have always traded at a discount to the net asset value. So, they're under 1 times, when our competitors like Metala trading at almost 2 times, Mavericks trading at almost 2, 1 3/4 times, and even competitors like Nomad trading at a multiple of their net asset value. So we were forced, in this environment, to either look at deals and with all of these companies, the new royalties that came on the scene, came available. Almost all of them, because there's so many royalty companies out there, everybody figured out that they could put out their royalties out for the bid, basically, that they were going to check with other royalty companies. They weren't just going to, sell it to one and not check around or not run a process. So, royalties, especially paying royalties, so ones that are, currently in production, started trading at 1 3/4 to 2 times net asset value. So if our assets are trading at less than 1 times, and we go out and buy something that's trading at 2 times, better be an awfully good royalty. And quite frankly, we weren't seeing royalty opportunities that were, that much better than ours, that we would want to dilute our current assets by overpaying for new assets. So consequently, we looked at, we think that one, there's going to be a big consolidation in the industry as there's too many players and not enough product, and the royalties that are out there are trading more expensively. And we realized we had to do something to really spur to get our assets more fairly valued. And this transaction was a way to do that right away, with a re-rating of the combined assets of GROY. GROY was trading right around 1 times net asset value, and we were very comfortable with their net asset value because they had just done the IPO in March. Their IPO was way oversubscribed. They went out to raise $30 million. They ended up raising $90 million by raising that amount of the offering twice. And they had over 120 million book. So it was very, very well accepted, the management and the GROY platform. and really put a floor, established a value for them there at 1 times and trading at about 1 times NAV. So, we put a platform together that we think will now trade up and be re-rated up in that 1.5 to 2 times NAV, up with some of our competitors, and allow us to go out and and actually purchase royalties here without dilution. I mentioned before the platform here, or the company with over 300 years of when you add Jerry and I in there, it's over 3 centuries of experience and that's in the operating royalty side, not just financials, transactions. And so, we think we'll be very competitive in adding royalties. We certainly have one of the most exciting growth royalty platforms with the combined assets of Gold Royalty and ELY. And then at the same time, we've got a great platform for consolidation in the industry. We do think that there will be more opportunities like ELY GROY for purchasing, and doing more merger and M&A activity. So we think it's a very exciting platform now, something that can really compete, with the medium-sized and even larger royalty companies out there.
Okay, thanks, Trey. Many detailed questions, obviously, in a situation like this around the transaction, timeline, voting, protocols, etc. Once in a while, a great overarching general question. I love this one. What are the advantages, in your opinion, Trey, of this deal for shareholders?
Well, I think I just spelled it out here, and I think I just answered that question pretty well. I mean, again, it's become a very competitive business. I think it's one that's ripe for consolidation, and ELY shareholders. While we have great assets, we were at a distinct disadvantage in the marketplace for purchasing additional royalties, like I just outlined. Okay. And in that situation, I mean, yeah, we could have just sat back and kind of business as usual, done some property deals, find some smaller, royalty deals like we have been doing here in the last 6 months or so, and let our assets mature. And if everything went according to plan, we'd have Wren and Walbridge and the Fenelon, coming on, and other royalties coming on stream, and the story would have been, it would have matured on its own for sure. But that's not what the market is looking for, and that's why our stock was continually. You have to keep moving forward in this business. You have to keep shareholders excited, and so the idea of just sitting back and waiting. That's not what shareholders want. They want to see, they want to see action. Mm-hmm. And we think this. Again, I encourage people to go look at the whole presentation. Go look at the presentation on the website that David and I did. Mm-hmm. We'll be doing more of those together here, and it's just a very exciting business combination here. Mm-hmm. That really gives ELY shareholders the best of both worlds. You still get to participate in a very large way. You can take some cash off the table. Never a bad idea to do that. Mm-hmm. B, you get the about 50% ownership in the new co, and these combined assets. With the combined assets, for again, well over 40 million ounces of gold, I believe, when we combine everything. Mm-hmm. So it just, we think, an exciting combination.
Great. Thank you, Trey. We're approaching the top of the hour here, so just time for a couple more questions. And a shareholder asks, if they own 1,000 shares of ELY on the U.S. exchange, can you show an example of how many shares of GROY they would own if they elect all stock? Okay. The exchange won't change. The GROY exchange ratio is set at 0.245 for all stock. Now, as I show on this slide here, you can see if the implications that above 16%, this is who takes that take the all cash option, and I think it's reasonable to assume
more than 16% or more will take all cash. So you would get, in that case up here, you will get this, all stock people will get all stock. It's only if nobody, basically less than 16%, take cash, the all cash option, then you're going to get a little bit of cash and some GROY stock, and the GROY stock. But the ratio does not change. So basically, in my example here, I have used the Canadian exchange rate. You know, you will multiply to get the value of how many shares you're going to get. You just multiply your shares. So if you have 1,000 shares times 0.245, you're going to end up with 245 shares of GROY. If you looking at the quote on the ELGYF, which I believe today is right around $1, but I think GROY is trading, I didn't look at it here recently, I'm going to use yesterday's close at $1.35, times 0.245 equals $1.31. So, you know, your share that's trading right now at $1 a share, ELYGF, in the US will be converted into 0.245 GROY shares, which today is worth $1.31.
Great. Thank you for that. Another question, this will probably wrap us up at this point, Trey, just given we're at the top of the hour, but I do want to check in about the hotline too. Can shareholders find that hotline on the website? Yeah,
the number for the hotline is on the website, they're at this point just answering questions. So anybody who's here running to the hotline, you will not be able to get any. Hotline's not. It's there to answer questions right now, but it's not really going to be hot until after the record date next week, July 14th.
Okay.
At that point, within a day or two, we will have sent out the circulars, and there will be a control number for you. So at that point, the hotline will really be hot, and you'll be able to call them and either track down your paperwork, track down your control number, and either they will help you get your control number so you can go online and vote, or we are trying to put together where a feature where you'll just be able to work with somebody and vote your shares right over the phone. Right. We haven't confirmed that yet if we can, but at any rate, the hotline starting after the record date will be able to help everybody. But don't bother calling them now asking how can I vote, or when can I, or I want to vote my shares today, or I want to make my election today. Okay. Can't do it till after the record date next week. Okay. Good to know, Trey. And this pretty well takes us to the top of the hour. So I want to thank you once again for your perspective and insights. It's a lot of moving parts, but I know these town halls are really helping people understand the fine details and the vision moving forward. So Trey, I'll say thank you very much for your time, and to everyone, thank you for joining us. And we'll definitely be watching closely and look forward to talking to you again, Trey. Okay, thanks, Mark, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And just one more time, let everybody know we're very excited about the future here for ELY Gold. And look, people have been after me for years to change the name of ELY because nobody can pronounce it correctly. So here we are. So, one other thing checked off here as far as I think Gold Royalty is that's a lot easier to pronounce. Fair enough. Nicely said. And I'll thank you for your time, Trey. We'll look forward to talking to you again. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. All the best. Thanks, folks.